The WWE has become such a tightly orchestrated spectacle in recent years that the mere idea of an unscripted moment seems to be closer to fantasy than anything we can realistically conceive at this stage. But the truth is that even through the more well-received eras of the WWE, there has always been scripting, from the promos to the matches to the commentary lines themselves. This, of course, makes moments of pure inspiration or memorable improvisation somewhat of a rarity, with such moments often riffing on scripted points of action or story beats the wrestlers need to hit. And these are often with particular phrasing attached to any promo to ensure the monthly pay-per-view video packages are given the appropriate taglines and sound bites. After all, how can anyone come to take Roman Reigns seriously as a major star unless Michael Cole screams, "Here comes the big dog!" every damn time as he enters an arena? This, of course, means that almost every moment of wrestling television has become conceived in advance, making moments of pure inspiration unlikely and memorable unscripted moments even more of a rarity. To burn yourself into the memories of the viewing public without first going over the idea with the powers that be is nigh on impossible for a superstar in the WWE, but it does happen. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 crazy unscripted WWE moments. Disclaimer, this list will not contain wrestler injuries. Join us! Number 10, CM Punk punches a fan. Less a moment of inspiration and more a moment of shock and concern, CM Punk's attack on a WWE fan during a live broadcasted WWE event was perhaps the most controversial on-screen act of a WWE superstar in recent years. The more cowardly version of his character tended to use the crowd as a barrier between himself and his opponents, which of course meant that he was made to stand in amongst the WWE fans on regular occasion. On the 10th of August 2012 episode of WWE Raw, Punk was being heckled by spectators while on camera and was visibly jabbed and shoved multiple times by a nearby fan. After a brief warning glance back, Punk swung a backhand, connected with a fan, and proceeded to push him to the ground. The issue here wasn't just that Punk had retaliated towards a fan as a so-called professional athlete, but that he had also attacked the wrong guy. Luckily for Punk and the WWE, not too much was made of the incident, and Punk remained WWE champion for the remaining months of 2012. Number 9, Daniel Puder versus Kurt Angle in a shoot grapple. It's quite rare that anyone grapples for real in a WWE ring, but to do it with Kurt Angle seems even more of a no-no. Tell that to Daniel Puder. The Tough Enough 2004 competitor was invited onto SmackDown that year as part of the cast of the reality show and was challenged to face Kurt as part of an open invitational. Believing it to be a real wrestling encounter, the former MMA fighter began to legitimately grapple with Kurt and even managed to sink in a key lock on the former Olympic champion. With the key lock well and truly locked in, the referees hastily counted a 3 count on behalf of Angle, who had the leverage, to save Angle the embarrassment of losing a shoot fight to a guy who was being presented as a rookie, making for one of the more embarrassing but also most real unscripted moments in WWE history. After the match, Kurt would get in Puder's face, asking him if he was stupid and if he knew what he was doing. And despite winning that year's competition, not much was seen of Puder after this incident. Well, except for that time Hardcore Holly, Chris Benoit, and Eddie Guerrero ruined him at the 2005 Royal Rumble. Number 8, Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman trade strikes. The triple threat match between Brock Lesnar, Kane, and Braun Strowman was always expected to be a heavy hitter of a WWE Universal title match at the 2018 Royal Rumble, but the strikes traded between Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar went a little too far and were certainly unplanned. Early in the match, Brock was ticked off when an overzealous Strowman kneed him in the head, rocking the big man. The former UFC champion, who is not one known for his calm and poise, responded by legitimately punching Strowman in the head. Replays showed Strowman's skull shaking under his skin from the impact in what was a crazy moment that it seems only Lesnar is capable of. Fair play to Strowman for being able to carry on too. Number 7, the Shane McMahon glass spot. This entry is pretty simple, but also pretty brutal. Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon were playing out a feud in 2001 that saw them booked in a street fight at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. At one stage in the match, the plan was for Angle to belly-to-belly suplex Shane through a sugar glass plate that made up part of the King of the Ring set. The issue was that when it came to the throw, Shane's weight didn't break it, sending Shane back first into the plate upside down, forcing him to land head first on the ground. "Do it again," Shane told Kurt, and so he did, this time sending Shane through it. They then tried the same spot to get Shane back through a different plate of glass, but that didn't break either, repeating repeating the crazy and painful looking spot that had taken place just moments before. It was the sort of performance that proved Shane's worth as a talent worthy of investing in despite being the boss's son. It was also ultimately the match that stole the show, with this particular rough-looking, crazy, unplanned moment being a huge part of why. Number 6, Cesaro rips apart a beach ball. In recent years, the level of fan discomfort has been summed up best by the presence of one thing: beach balls. Usually inflated during matches the audiences don't care about, and regularly touted as being the product of fans who are disrespectful of the wrestlers and just trying to get themselves over, beach ball mania seems to have been a constant thorn in the side for the WWE recently, and was running wild during a somewhat underwhelming 2017 SummerSlam pay-per-view, with one particular beach ball party taking place during the tag team title match between The Bar and Shield members Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. During what was an exciting match between two excellent teams and four individuals of the highest standard, the beach ball game was getting a mixed reaction from fans in the arena, and so Cesaro acted. Hopping down from the ring apron mid-match, Cesaro ran into the crowd, caught the guilty beach ball, and ripped it to pieces with his bare hands like some sort of ravaged beast. It was perfect for getting heel heat from the casual audiences, as it felt like it was spoiling their fun, but it was also a solid way to bring attention back to the match. Number 5, Mankind is chokeslammed through the Hell in a Cell roof. We all know that The Undertaker was supposed to throw Mick Foley from the Hell in a Cell roof and through an announce table back in 1998. But did you also know that he was never supposed to crash through the roof of the cell? Well, that's what Mick says to this day, and who could argue with this face? In what is surely one of the craziest unscripted WWE moments of all time, Mick Foley, then playing Mankind, was chokeslammed on the top of a Hell in a Cell by opponent The Undertaker, but the roof of the structure collapsed under his weight and the velocity of his fall, sending Foley down a further 10 feet into the ring. It concussed Foley immediately and sent a tooth through his lip. The match somehow went on, but the visual of Foley being brutalized by The Undertaker that night would become one of the most memorable moments in WWE history. By God, he is broken in half! Number 4, Batista and Cena accidentally eliminate one another from the Royal Rumble. The 2005 Royal Rumble was supposed to crown the new face of the era, setting forth the story for them to overcome the dominant heel champion on their brand at WrestleMania, and thus free the WWE of their dastardly ways. It was perhaps not too surprising that the young babyface duo of Batista and John Cena were the final two wrestlers left in the match that year then. But what was surprising was what followed. In a moment that has gone down in history as not only being one of the craziest unscripted moments of all time, but also one of the most hilarious and memorable, Cena and Batista accidentally eliminated each other, screwing up the planned finish for the match that had seen Batista go over as the Rumble winner. An on-the-fly decision was made to have the referees call different winners, thus indicating a draw. Then, a raging Mr. McMahon would storm from the back, rush to the ring, and tear both of his quads. Both of them. At the same time. Unable to stand, the owner of the company sat in the corner of the ring, as angry as ever, and demanded that Cena and Batista restart in the ring to declare the true winner. Number 3, CM Punk's pipe bomb. We weren't sure whether to include this one because just how much of Punk's pipe bomb was rehearsed or approved ahead of time is still up for debate, and as such, it ranks in our list a little lower than it might have done if it had all been off the cuff, totally unscripted. Pipe bomb about sums it up. CM Punk figuratively exploded the 2011 version of WWE in just a few short minutes, airing grievances that exposed backstage politics, behind-the-scenes figures, referenced wrestling companies that existed beyond the universe of the WWE, and even broke the fourth wall. It was perhaps the greatest promo in the history of the WWE, and it made Punk a megastar. The use of well-known banned phrases and actions creating a sense of reality that was made to feel all the more real when Punk's mic was cut off to end the show. Punk made it to the promised land of main event superstardom, the WWE was suddenly relevant among casual audiences again, and wrestling was changed. It was simply one of the greatest unscripted moments in WWE history, and it took one of the craziest talkers in the game to bring it to life. Sensational. Number 2, the Curtain Call. Known by many as being one of the most important turning points in wrestling history, the infamous MSG Curtain Call was the source of so much controversy that it's become one of the biggest WWE stories in history, despite never being aired on television and certainly not being being planned. On the 19th of May 1996, the WWE ran a house show from their hallowed home turf Madison Square Garden, at which Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, then known as Diesel and Razor Ramon, would work their last dates for Vince McMahon and the company. The main event of the show featured Diesel versus then WWF champion Shawn Michaels. After Michaels had beaten Diesel, he was joined in celebration by Razor Ramon, which wasn't seen as unusual due to both characters being babyface at the time. But once Triple H and then Diesel embraced Michaels and Ramon in a group hug, and the four turned arms aloft to bow to the audience, everything changed. It was known as the Curtain Call, the night that kayfabe died. In a pre-mainstream internet and pre-attitude era, good guys and bad guys never so much as traveled together, never mind embracing one another in front of 20,000 people. Many viewers still believed the whole thing to be real. In the aftermath of the Curtain Call, this was simply no longer the case. There were many inside the industry, and indeed inside of the WWE, who saw it as a blatant and purposeful act of disrespect from a bunch of unruly and ignorant kids, while there were some who believed it to be a presentation of reality that would come to define the era that followed it. Regardless on which side of the fence you sit, the 1996 MSG Curtain Call is absolutely one of the craziest unscripted WWE moments of all time. Number 1, the Montreal Screwjob. Listen, we're all fed up of hearing about Montreal, but could it have been anything else? The Montreal Screwjob is such an infamous, unscripted WWE moment that it even has its own widely acknowledged title. It's such a famous moment in professional wrestling history that the WWE, and just about every wrestling company across the planet, has at least one time tried to replicate it in the years since. It's so important to the lore of the WWE that it's still looked back at as being a turning point in the Monday Night Wars, and one of the biggest moments in all-time great Bret the Hitman Hart's career. The event was Survivor Series 1997, the location was Montreal, Canada, the country of Bret's birth, and the match was WWF champion Bret Hart versus bitter on-screen and off-screen rival Shawn Michaels for the belt. Hart was due to leave the WWF for WCW, but didn't want to lose to somebody he legitimately hated in real life, especially in Canada. This left Vince McMahon with a conundrum. His solution: tell Hart he was going over, then have the referee call for the bell, while Michaels had Bret in his own signature move, the sharpshooter. This was the very definition of unscripted, a moment in which the reality of wrestling booking, storytelling, and politics came to the fore and reared its head in an ugly, damaging way that would never be forgotten. The end of the best we ever got of the Hitman, the birthplace of the Mr. McMahon character, and the most infamous moment in on-screen wrestling history. And that's our list. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.